It's a battle in the Hill City as the Lynchburg Hornets welcome the Randolph Wildcats to Schellenberger Field in a battle of the King of the Hill. Joe Brennan joined alongside Chris Jennings as Lynchburg and Randolph in two very different spots of this season, but the Wildcats coming in tonight looking for not only their first conference win of the season, but their first win in program history over the Lynchburg Hornets.
Going to be a great day here, Joe. I think it's always a good time. A lot of festivities today. The One Love game, faculty appreciation night, and it's always good when Coach Sinclair comes back to his alma mater to take on the Hornets.
A little bit of alma mater on both sides. We'll touch into that as today progresses. But first off, let's take a look at the numbers and see how these two teams are supposed to match up coming into today. Very different spots in terms of where they've been thus far, and the numbers really just show you that. Almost flip-flopped in terms of goals and goals allowed this season. Also, a Lynchburg team that is really battling for positioning in terms of the top three for playoffs. This is a big-time game. The Hornets need to win out in order to clinch the number one seed, along with a few extra things going their way. Meanwhile, Randolph just trying to come in and play spoiler, Chris.
Yeah, and this is a Randolph team that historically hasn't been too successful with scoring against the Hornets. This year, their average goals is right above 7 goals per game. However, in the past 5 games, Lynchburg's pitched 3 shutouts and only given up 1 or 2 goals the other 2 times.
It should be a different look today for Lynchburg. We'll walk you through the starting lineups in just a moment, but we'll step aside quickly for the playing of our national anthem and return on LHSN.
Welcome to the Campus Recreational Department at the University of Lynchburg. We believe in a student-centered approach to recreation, making sure that all students have fun and engaging activities that promotes wellness, personal growth, and community building.
Our team works to provide a variety of recreation opportunities for all our undergrad and graduate students.
Let's take a look at the different areas of Campus Rec.
Campus Recreation covers all outdoor recreation. Our team offers dozens of trips per semester, maintains recreation facilities on campus, and offers outdoor certificates and leadership training.
Intramurals is open to all students who wants to play on a team. We have men's, women's, and co-ed leagues for each sport we offer.
Those looking for next level competition can join club sports. These are student-led organizations with the support of Campus Recreation. You can join one of our established club sports, or you can start your own with our support.
Campus Recreation offers an excellent amount of opportunities to stay active, make new friends, and develop new skills. We hope to see you soon.
Want to have some outdoor adventures while getting a degree?
And we welcome you back into the broadcast booth here on Schellenberger Field, moments away from the opening faceoff. And, pardon me, now we're actually going to run the national anthem. We'll step aside.
I wanted to be a physical therapist probably starting about halfway through college. I love the concept that exercise is medicine. You know, we're starting to discover that exercise really can remedy many of the things that we thought that only surgery or only drugs could remedy in the past. When the student comes here, it's because we believe in them, it's because we want them here, it's because we believe they'll be successful. The faculty here are devoted to their development, not only academically but also professionally. We're not so inundated with things that we don't have time to make students one of our highest priorities. We have your back. We're gonna help you through that. If you're willing to work, then we're willing to put the work into it and the effort to help you succeed.
Lynchburg is all about you, your ideas, and your goals. We've got one professor for every 10 students, so you can get all the support you need. In the classroom, in the lab, or in nature. You'll learn by putting yourself out there, and we're right there with you.
And we welcome you back into the Hill City, a battle between two schools 2 miles down the road from one another. Lynchburg and Randolph. Should be a good one on our hands today. One Love Night, Faculty Appreciation Night as well. But first, let's walk you through the starting lineups. First, for the Lynchburg Hornets. Between the pipes, Eric Allen, this sophomore, gets the nod today over Andrew Miller. Then Thaedo Highland, Liam Haley, Albee, Palza, Will Hicks, Rocco Egan at the center circle, Gabe Manchada at defensive midfield, and then it's Charlie Evans, Carter Bez, and Drew Schmidt in that attack line. What excites you the most out of that bunch we've got today, Chris?
I think I'm going to be real excited about Charlie Evans, Carter Bez, sort of guys who have played in a lot of big games. Now, sometimes they come in as filling in a spot if someone goes down. They get to start today. They're two seniors. Carter Bez has battled injury throughout his career. I think it's going to be a real good day for both of them.
Now let's walk through the starting 10 for the Randolph Wildcats. It's Keegan Slider between the pipes, then Calvin Ross, Gavin Maple, Shane Smith, Britton Malcolm, Josh Parker at midfield alongside Leighton Brightly, then Noah Callahan, Harrison Briggs, and Michael Baldwin at the attack line. It's a very, very talented squad that Randolph has got. And they've got a couple guys that can really turn things up and offer them production when they need. Leighton Brightly has been a bright spot, to say the least, so far this season for the Wildcats, and he's picked up as of late 7 goals in his last 2 games. He also recorded a season-high 9 goals about 2 games ago. He's someone that can really get hot and get hot quickly.
Yeah, 44 points out of the midfield. That puts him in the top echelon of the ODAC, and something that is no slouch to take care of.
And somebody else that we've got our eye on for the Lynchburg Hornets doesn't get this start today. Nevertheless, Riley Hastings has certainly found his rhythm as of late. 1 goal and 3 assists in the Hornets' last game on the road against Bridgewater. That's bumped him up to 9th all-time in program history for assists. He's 1 away from tying 8th overall, and someone that's well within striking distance of becoming the all-time program leader, which is set at 131. He had 60 coming into the year, 24 thus far. I mean, this Lynchburg attack line has really started to find their rhythm, and we're going to start to see a little bit more of the depth that they can offer, which certainly helps you come postseason time here today.
Yeah, Hastings has done a great job over his 3 years here at Lynchburg. Someone that, since day one on campus, has really stepped up and said, I'll be the quarterback. Never been really afraid of the bright lights. Freshman year was kept out of the playoffs. However, since then, he's been a dominant force, and it almost is as if he has eyes in the back of his head. And that is why he's on such a great list with still another year plus to climb up the leaderboard.
The Wildcats today rocking the all black with yellow face masks and numbers. Lynchburg in their white shorts and blue jerseys, their One Love. And Chris, such a great foundation, so great. You always see it in the lacrosse community, and Lynchburg certainly one of those schools that's very much so involved.
Yes, and with Dom Starja up at UVA, where One Love really started, his son played here at Lynchburg. Coach Kadelka and Coach Starja have a really tight connection, and something that Coach Kadelka keeps very dear to his heart, and we'll obviously get into more of that later on.
Coach Kadelka and the Hornets, eyes on postseason. Everybody's trying to get ready for May, right around the corner. We talked a little bit about the postseason implications for Lynchburg. They need to win out and then have Roanoke win by exactly 1 goal in their final game of the season against Washington and Lee for the Hornets to come away with the regular season title and home field advantage throughout. But obviously you're not just playing for that number 1 seed. Last year and in the last couple of years, we haven't necessarily seen the number 1 team come away with the ODAC championship in the tournament. So there's still a great chance that you host that final game despite coming in with a 2 or 3 seed. Nevertheless, those top 2 seeds really do carry a whole lot of weight just because it puts you automatically into that semifinal, Chris.
Yeah, it's been since 2019 since the number 1 overall seed in the ODAC has actually won the tournament. And that is something that it almost seems like whoever wins the Washington and Lee Lynchburg battle during the regular season ends up losing in the championship or there along the way. And I think that what is so special about trying to get that 1 seed is the fact that you get to play at home.
Yeah.
That is something that every team in the conference, they understand the magnitude of playing at home and being successful in that aspect.
And coming into this year, I mean, we really felt like it was going to be a 2-horse race between Lynchburg and W&L. Obviously, you have 3 other schools very much so in that mix with Roanoke, Hampton, Sidney, and Randolph-Macon. But it does feel like there have been somewhat of 2 tiers between that top 5. Nevertheless, that Roanoke team, I mean, they look like a squad you do not want to face in a semifinal, which even adds more to being that number 1 seed. And Lynchburg gets on the board early, 1:20 into the contest. It's a step-down snipe from the top of the box coming from Colby Hogg.
Great job by Colby there. He's able to get to his strong hand, go opposite of stick side, and it's going to be a goal 9 times out of 10.
Well, we get to see some of the depth that this Lynchburg team brings. That first line of middies not in action quite yet. It should be interesting to see if they're in action at all today. I don't know if I see any of them suited up.
Yeah, and I think that's something to be sort of looked at is Coach Kadelka's always been someone who you want to play your best ball in May.
Yeah.
That is why since 2001, there's been 23 ODAC titles. COVID canceled one of them, and Lynchburg has a majority of the ODAC titles because he understands that it's a long season. Wins in February and March are great, but at the end of the day, he wants to win in May and continue that going into the season. And he understands that maybe a little bit rest this last week of the regular season is going to pay off down the road.
Carter Bez sneaking around the crease. A bouncer, low to high, puts it in the back of the cage. Lynchburg with back-to-back goals here in the early moments. Bez, another guy that has really found his rhythm towards the latter part of his senior season. Got hot really right around conference play and hasn't cooled down since then. And what him and Evans also, especially on that man-up situation coming from the left side, that he can provide, really gives Lynchburg a whole lot more of a dangerous threat on the offensive end.
Yeah, and something to be said is in that Roanoke game a couple weeks ago, there was a lot of struggles to start the game with that Lynchburg offense. Really didn't have an answer for Roanoke. Carter Bez and Charlie Evans come in, sort of light a spark, and ever since then, the attack line and the attack group as a whole has been clicking on all cylinders.
Good defensive stand from the Wildcats. Lynchburg picks it up off the carpet. Swung around back outside to Alex Morton. Morton matched up with a shorty, plays it underneath. Around from X, it's Drew Schmidt. 22 on the shot clock. Top of the box. Morton gets it right back. Left hand up top over the top pipe.
Now, if you're Morton there, you want to see that you have all this open space. Go to your dominant hand, really step in there so that way you can get as close. It almost caught him off by surprise that you had so much space to step down from.
Hillenbrand finds his first of the afternoon. Rips it. 3-0 Lynchburg out in front. Hillenbrand does a great job sweeping across the top. He can hurt you with the left or the right. Another face-off for the Hornets. That's been a dominant aspect of this year's team. Long pole, goal! No hesitation. It's the freshman, Jack Murdoch.
And that's a great job by Murdoch. On that fast break, you see the face-off man hit the point attackman, continue his cut to sort of draw the defenders as he's the guy who's closest to the goal. And then Murdoch's able to follow as the trailer and gives him a great chance to step down for the pole goal.
Beautiful shot, both from the freshman Murdoch and from our on-field cameraman, Brian Flowers. Lynchburg now will build it from the back, up by 4. 3.5 minutes in. I'm really excited to see a little bit more of Allen. He's someone that has gotten a little bit of action this season, late in some games. But he's someone that could very well be the future in the crease for the Lynchburg Hornets.
Yeah, as a sophomore, he's no stranger to getting in games here at Lynchburg, but back in high school, state champion, Virginia Player of the Year. He has all the accolades, now sort of gained one of his first starts in college. After this year, all signs point to him being the guy in net, and it's just how can he continue to grow his confidence, similar to how Andrew Miller the past couple years didn't get a lot of starts, but he kept his confidence at practice and has had a great season so far this year.
Brody Mason with some physicality. A freight train going towards the pipes. And as we talk about Allen, I mean, obviously, in this day and age of collegiate sports, it doesn't feel like there's any form of certainty that a position is yours the next season, whether that be with incoming freshmen, but especially now because of the portal. But this is a Lynchburg lacrosse team that seems to focus a whole lot more on the development of players more so than the recruitment of college players.
Yeah, and I think something to be said for that is you're Lynchburg born and raised and grown, not necessarily you're from Lynchburg, like we have Luke Meadows, Josiah Martin, Matt Meadows, Clayton Jones, guys who have come through the program. But you buy into the program when you're a freshman and really before that, and that is something that you feel that if you put in the time and effort, Coach Kudelka is going to have that in the back of his mind. He understands what it means to be here 3-4 years, maybe without a shot at starting, but he gets there.
Lynchburg once again up to half a dozen goals, less than 5 minutes into this affair. This offense firing on all cylinders as Carter Bez gets his second of the day.
And that's a great job by Bez, sort of getting to a strong hand, a nice jump shot over the top, really coming high to low and sticking it on the hip. Something that the Lynchburg offense has to look for is that how's this second line of attack, how's this second line of midfield do? After this past weekend beating up at Bridgewater, they're a little questionable on how well they play. You and I and Coach Kudelka and the staff know that they have the talent. This weekend wasn't necessarily their best, so now they're in that chance to really show that, no, they're good. It was a one-off game, and they're ready to keep the ground running.
This is a Randolph squad that comes into tonight's contest 1-14 on the season. Their sole win coming at the hands of Warren Wilson, a squad that is still searching for their first win of the 2025 campaign. Split dodge, Lynchburg plays it underneath that X. Now Evans at GLE. Good ball movement thus far. It's really been some of the quickest passing we've seen from Lynchburg maybe all season. Miller just a tad too high, 30 seconds on the shot clock as the Hornets will reset from X. Because this is a team that, beginning of the year, almost all of Lynchburg's goals came either in transition or from isolation dodges. But as the year's gone along, you really start to see this offense evolve and develop and find different ways to beat teams.
Yeah, and something's to be said for that.
Goodness. Off the pipe, off the back of the goalie's helmet. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
And something to be said for that is that they had a lot of defenses go man against them early on in the year. Then teams started to realize, all right, those midfielders like a Jake Russ, like a Grant Voigt, like a Liam Holman, they can beat their guys one-on-one. Riley Hastings, Vanderberg, Schmidt, those guys were beating their guys man one-on-one. So how do you sort of counteract that is you drop into a zone knowing that maybe the ball movement isn't quite there, and that's really hurt them in the middle of the season. But as you continue to evolve and each day of practice you start throwing different looks at the offense, they're going to continue to get better. And something that, talking to the coaching staff, these guys love watching film. They want to get better and they want to understand how to get better. And I think that's been something really important throughout the year.
And it's been on both sides of the ball. It's something that we've really been stressing all season. You've not only seen how this offense has grown, but how the defense has also gained confidence and better communication as this season has gone along. Less breakdowns, less mismatches, really everything you want to see out of a group that was very, very inexperienced. Practically all of them had their first career start in Game 1 against Gettysburg. And this group looks entirely different than it did on that first game in the monsoon we had here on Schellenberger against the Bullets. So that's exactly what a coaching staff wants to see. Evans, a left-handed bullet.
And that's great ball movement, sort of on key. You see Evans starting to move his feet, get upfield, so that way he's catching it on the run and able to go downhill and make that step. Even though he's not shooting on the run, still all his momentum's going towards the net there.
Well, I can tell you right now, Lynchburg's certainly happy with the shooting percentage. Right now, everything's going through. 7 goals on 13 shots for the Hornets. And they've dominated at the center circle thus far, winning every face-off we've had. Now with number 8 tonight, Lynchburg, a perfect 8-for-8 Rocco Egan. Gets the win, plays it to Evans. Now he'll slow things down near the close sideline as Lynchburg gets their offensive personnel on the field.
And something that really hasn't changed throughout the year is the success that Lynchburg's had at the faceoff X. The ones where they've struggled the most, CNU, WNL, both of those games were well-played games, but it was sort of interesting to see how the Lynchburg team responded from not winning 60, 70% of the faceoffs. When Lynchburg plays make it, take it, they're almost unbeatable.
Yeah, but, I mean, you go back to that Gettysburg game where they were, 70% from faceoffs and found themselves, a six-goal loss?
Yes, 16-9.
There you go.
And I think something, though, is that they've improved from that. I think you played this Lynchburg team against the team on February 10th. This Lynchburg team probably wins by 7, 8, 9 goals.
Yeah.
And that is something like, how can you continuously improve? Something that Coach Smith down in the weight room, 1% better every day. They apply it in the weight room, they apply it on the field, and that is something that you look at the improvement throughout the year. It's not just those top 6 guys on the offense improving. We've seen the depth just absolutely blast off with guys like Charlie Evans, Carter Bez, Brody Mason, the Rubley twins. I can go on and on. Drew Schmidt.
It is a team that has certainly progressed as the season's gone along. And looking sharp here through the first 9 minutes of action. 20 seconds on the shot clock. Playing it around the horn. Quick passing from the Hornets. And a great stop by the Wildcat keeper.
And he does a great job there by really hugging the pipe, closing the 5-hole there to take away that shot there.
Nevertheless, gives Lynchburg a fresh 60. Yet to see Randolph go to a man defense. It's been all zone thus far. And Lynchburg's really been picking them apart.
And something that you're going to want to see when you're going against a zone defense is that guy on the crease especially, the feet have to be moving the entire time. No one can be standing still.
Brody Mason, watch out. A rocket to the top left corner. He's got 2.
And this team that has really struggled, besides really Jake Rust on shooting percentage this year, it's a team that has not shot the ball as well as in years past. I mean, there's been years where Lynchburg's been the statistical champion in shooting percentage.
Yeah.
This year, not quite as well. Jake Rust hovers around 40%, which out of the midfield, that is spectacular, and that's why he'll probably be an All-American again. But how can they continue to improve on the shooting percentage is something that I personally would want to see out of this offense, out of these guys. How can they continue to sort of pick the corners? And it's not necessarily always, hey, we're going to be around 50% like they are tonight, but it's going to be how can we either get the right shot or we're not giving up possession saves. A possession save is a lot worse than a shot that goes over the net out of bounds. You have the backup.
Well, I will say this has been a Lynchburg team that's ranked top 10 nationally at moments this year for shooting percentage, so it's certainly been there at times. But obviously when you take guys out of the mix like Dylan Wolf, that were really your go-to scorers at such an efficient clip, you're going to see a little bit of that drop-off. But again, we go back to the progression aspect. That's really where it's been recently. The shot percentage has started to climb. And it feels like ever since that Roanoke game, the offense has found a whole new level of confidence. And the face-offs as well, as you mentioned going back to it, that make it take its style of play, where Lynchburg was trailing in that game almost the entirety of it. Their first lead of the night was 17-16. And it all happened because you have a 5-0 run in the fourth quarter within the span of 4 minutes where you're getting goal, 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 goal. And in those kind of games where it feels like every time that shot clock resets, somebody's scoring, that's an invaluable aspect to have.
Yeah, and I would say that obviously Hastings and Voigt, sort of the quarterbacks of the offense, Jake Russ, Liam Holman, those righty and lefty snipers, Vanderberg on the inside that catches everything, it seems like, Finn Schmidt, who can beat any guy one-on-one. But when you look at the Lynchburg offense, like at a deeper level, the real MVP's got to be Riley Frankel because he's getting the ball back to them when they're scoring. It's almost like getting a treat every time a dog does a trick correctly. It's just getting rewarded over and over. When they're scoring, he's like, that's fine, I'll get you the ball back. I'll be ready to go back to the faceoff X when you guys score again. And he's having one of the best seasons in Lynchburg history.
And I can remember from the first couple of weeks of the season how big of an impact Frankel had, because we talked about at 70% in the Gettysburg game. Then he was sidelined the next contest against Pfeiffer. And before we played Salisbury on Schellenberger, I got the chance to talk to Salisbury's head coach, and I asked him at the end of the conversation, is there anything you'd like to add, any questions you've got for me? He goes, I want to know if the Frankel kid's playing. He's making me a little nervous. And he had a great game against Salisbury, especially in that first half, as Lynchburg throws it in the back left corner for the shot clock violation once again. But he's someone that if the season ended today, Frankel would finish with the third highest or tied for the third highest face-off win percentage in program history in a single season.
And that is something, there's been a lot of face-off guys that have had.
Oh, what a check. Sorry.
That have had elite seasons. You've got Disler, you've got Quentin Ritchie, you've got Michael Krause, who just graduated last year, talking about how Andrew Miller stepped in for Tyler Hadley.
Yeah.
Frankel's had to step into that role that Michael Krause, who was excellent at the clamp, and he's now using his graduate year over at Denver, being their starting faceoff guy. So it's not like he was behind some slouch who is now just never playing lacrosse again. He's going against one of the best guys in the country, and at practice, he's definitely learned from that, and that's really paid off this year.
And I think that's what today really goes to show you, and also in the last home game we had against Averett, where we're really getting to see the depth of this Lynchburg team, where a lot of programs, when you lose so much talent on a year-in and year-out basis, it can oftentimes be difficult to reload, and oftentimes you really need to rebuild. But this is a Lynchburg lacrosse team that is accustomed to having big shoes to fill, and every single season they find a way. And this is a squad that has the bar set at competing for a conference championship and competing in the national landscape.
Yeah, and to go off that is like you go back a couple years. This attack line's been the group for 3 years. Mm-hmm. There's guys on the bench right now who are that second group of players that when they're juniors, seniors, they're going to be ready to go in. And that's a group that replaces Riley Hastings, who's climbing up the assist leaderboard. He's replacing a guy like Kyle Lewis, who was Lynchburg's all-time career leader in assists, and Hastings may go right by him. So it's not even like reloading's an understatement. They're just getting better and better and better and raising the bar in that aspect.
Just under 30 seconds to go in the first quarter. We get to see the Wildcats with their first offensive possession tonight. A bouncer just a tick outside, but backed up by the Wildcats. It's Harrison Briggs, his sophomore attackman, who stands at 6'4". He certainly adds a little bit of height to this squad.
Yeah, and you got to look at Coach Sinclair on the opposing side has done a great job of recruiting guys that sort of fit the mold of being big, strong, talented guys.
And the first 15 expires. Lynchburg with 8 goals through the first 15. Chris?
Yeah, and it's just been domination, face-off X, and then having a couple shot clock violation has given Randolph a little bit of life, but if you're Randolph, you got to start winning face-offs if you want to have a chance at scoring a couple here tonight.
We'll step aside momentarily. When we come back, we'll see if the Wildcats can cut into the deficit.
Your greatest critic is right here. Now that is poetry. That's Fandom U. It's all part of the curriculum.
The NCAA D1, D2, and D3 men's and D1 women's lacrosse championships, May 23rd through the 26th in Boston. Buy your seats today at ncaa.com/tickets.
Class dismissed. Your greatest critic.
And we welcome you back into the Hill City. Lynchburg with a commanding 8-0 advantage after the first quarter. Randolph had one offensive possession to end the first frame.
And they're able to get a shot there, so having a shot on goal, maybe a little bit of a spark here, but nothing's really going to get accomplished for the Wildcats until they start winning a couple faceoffs or maybe getting a cause turnover or two on the defensive side to hit the transition.
Really, the main turnovers we've seen from Lynchburg today have really all been shot clock violations. We did see one errant pass, but other than that, it's really been clean offense from the Hornets thus far. And right as I say that, it's a turnover. I'm telling you, man, I've got a bad jinx. Yeah.
But with the sun sort of breaking through the clouds this evening, I think we'll see how these cross-field passes work for both sides, coming from the dorm side to the stand side.
Here's a chance in transition. The Wildcats. Left-handed shot goes into the cage. Once again, it's the 6'4" attackman, Harrison Briggs.
Yeah, and something that...
Oh, off the pipe.
Something that Briggs has got to do there is sort of, he's fading away, really limiting his angle there for Randolph, and that's something that he's got to sort of take a hitch and get upfield. It looks like it'll be Lynchburg or Randolph ball here.
Randolph will slow it down and get into their offensive set. Here's our player to watch with possession right now. Leighton Brightly.
He's got a short stick matchup here that I think he likes and wants to go at.
Working against Rowan. Around the crease, back up top, center of the box. Plenty of time on the shot clock to find a good look on this possession.
And with the limited amount of offensive possessions that... Oh.
Here's the angle. Squeaks it through. The Wildcats get on the board. A big-time response here in the second quarter.
And something there that Briggs does is he's not fading away. He sort of runs through the check and is able to get upfield to increase his angle, something that he didn't do on that last shot.
He's the biggest guy on the field by a wide margin. The only guy above 6'3" on the roster that compares to him is the guy on the sideline that we normally see in the cage, and Andrew Miller. I mean, when you have size like that as an attackman, it really does give you so much leverage, Chris.
Especially that lefty spot where it's a little bit harder to match up on as a defensive player, because when you're a righty, you're playing ahead of him, and so you're not able to get that V hold that so many defenders like to do on their attackman.
Lynchburg now will slow things down.
However, I know Coach Kudelka, something that he'll really sort of challenge the Lynchburg defense is own your matchup. He wants people to own the matchup so that way they can take control and not get beat, because he wants them to own the matchup, whether it's Salisbury and Washington and Lee or if it's a Randolph or Averitt game. A great save there by the Randolph keeper.
Lynchburg denied. Shot clock resets once again to 60.
And it looks like Randolph's dropped into that zone defense that maybe in times past has made the Lynchburg offense struggle. But so far today, the passing's been pretty crisp. There's been a couple drop passes or right off the head of the stick.
Ricocheted off the keeper into the back of the goal. Lynchburg with an answer. Back up by 8.
Great job by Henry Fowler there to put that one in the back of the net. Really didn't give the goalie much of a shot. going 5-hole there. He's able to get down, but when it's that good of a shot, he's just hoping that he can get a piece of it and it bounces off of him. It ends up just bouncing in the back of the net for him this time.
And we talked about the connection between these two squads. Look nowhere other than Prince Charles, who's hiding right now behind Ethan Carr. There you can see him in that nice black bomber jacket. Prince Charles, an assistant coach for Lynchburg, a graduate of Randolph College, where he was a big-time player for the Wildcats a few years back. Career-wise, the all-time leader in face-off win percentage from 2016 to 2019. Also, the program career record holder in ground balls with an eye-opening 364, almost 80 higher than second place. And you go through those season numbers as well. He has 3 of the 4 highest ground ball totals in a single season.
Yeah, and Prince, someone that I was fortunate enough to play against as a freshman his senior year, when you talk about him, is someone that every single player on the other team just absolutely respected tremendously. He was always the guy who you were able to talk to, give a handshake, hug after a game.
Well, I think Hillenbrand's going to get a handshake and a hug coming from Prince when he gets back to the sideline. You've got the Hornets doing push-ups on the sideline right now, celebrating the goal. 10th of the day, up and down 10 times for that bouncer. And squeaks in.
And that's a big one for the Hornets. Get to 10 as sort of quickly as possible. Still hovering around that 50% on the shooting percentage. But something that Coach Kadelka, all the alumni know that on your bench press, you always got to get, you don't just get to 10, you blow past it as much as you can. And so anyone that's listening, that's a Lynchburg alum, they know what I'm talking about. And it's sort of not settling just for the standard, and it's going above and beyond that.
What are you hitting for 10 on the bench?
When I was, my best was.
Not your best. What are you doing today?
Today, my body weight, I would probably hit around 13, 14.
13, 14 of your body weight?
Yeah, that was always the.
I mean, I'm not. You don't have to tell people how much you weigh on the broadcast. I was just looking for a number, but we can hold that. I mean, I'm not hitting what Brody Mason is hitting for 10. I can tell you that much.
I was going to say, there's definitely a fair amount of guys on this team that easily can blow past 10 still to this day.
10 for 225, just like the combine?
Yeah, there was mine was a little bit more than 225.
Okay, Chris. I see you, man. 2 plates on that thing. That's easy. Slight work for my man, Chris Jennings. Not for me. Step down shot, just off the mark. Lynchburg backs it up. That's Patron. Matty Patron, as we've talked about, a guy that's really started to come alive. 2 goals in the last 2 games for Lynchburg.
Yeah, and he's done a great job. I know we saw him earlier in the hallway. He always has a smile on his face.
Sidearm. A stop from the new keeper that's checked into the game for the Wildcats. After Slider got the start, now it's Jake Hanna, the freshman out of Powhatan, Virginia. A little bit of trouble. Hornets at midfield. They want to push. 3-on-1. Patron can't find it. Turn around. It's a long pole goal. Second one of the day for Jack Murdoch.
Have yourself a day, kid.
Not a bad day to be Jack Murdoch.
Now, something that we've talked about in previous broadcasts is Lynchburg sort of using that transition to spark those offensive goals. Once again, normally it's Luke Meadows, Parker Seeley, Cole Zacharias getting the job done, and just going back to the depth conversation that we've had probably countless times already this evening, but Jack Murdoch getting 2 goals to add to the defensive midfield sort of unit for them.
Murdoch had 2 goals against Guilford on the road earlier this year. Today matches his season high in his freshman campaign. Good movement. Hornets pump the brakes. Murdoch, a really talented player out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Went to the Baylor School down there. Got handful of guys that went to different Baylor schools, most notably Quincy White, who's trotting off the field right now from the Baylor school out of Texas. But Murdoch, a two-time All-Region player and All-State Lacrosse Player of the Year. And Lynchburg taps another one onto their total.
It's a great job there, sort of putting the ball in the bottom right corner there, sort of off stick. Bottom corner is always going to be something that Coach Kudelka and the rest of the staff are going to be pleased with.
It's one of the Rubley twins. Mark, top right, on the mark.
And those Rubley guys, they're the best. You see them all the time, or I do, down in Wake, getting those extra reps, knowing that they're trying to push, whether it's Riley Hastings, Spencer Vanderberg, for those starting spots, and it's just a rising tide lifts all ships.
The Lynchburg sideline just went crazy. They would have gone ballistic if D'Souza could have found the back of the cage.
And I think we're seeing a couple things that we saw against Averett. D'Souza with, I think, 2 or 3 shots there, and everyone was holding their breath, hoping that he buries one. I mean, I think that just goes to show, like, what he's done for the program, that they're just so – they want it for him, and he may not score all the goals like Jake Russ, but he does a great job away from the field as being a really good leader.
Miscommunication from the midfield line on Randolph. One too many men on one side of the field, and Quincy White in four-wheel drive parks one in the back of the net.
Great job by Quincy White. Another defensive midfield goal for the Hornets.
Parker Seeley having some fun with him. They find their trail man, and Quincy White takes care of business. 13-1, Lynchburg up by a dozen. 7:19 to go in the first half. 13 goals on 27 shots. And we talked a little bit about that Averett game, the similarities in that style of play as we see tonight. Lynchburg finished with the second most shots in a game with 79. One away from tying the program record of 80, which was set against Virginia Wesleyan way back in the day. Am I right, Chris? That was...
Yeah, I think, 2019? A long time ago.
That's when Chris was roaming around with the dinosaurs playing college ball. If it makes you feel old, I wasn't even in college yet.
Jeez.
I was a junior in high school.
That really makes me feel good.
The Hornets played underneath to Andrews. He's coming right for it. Sidearm didn't have the angle, or just left it a tick outside.
Great job by the Randolph goalie there. He was really on top of that one, was staying low, saw that Miller's hands dropped there, and was going low to low, and so that way goalie sort of just matched sticks with him there.
Under to X. Hillenbrand with it now. Skip pass, step down, money.
That's a great pass by Hillenbrand, sort of going back to the point where the passes just seem so much more on top of it today, and that they're able to zip it around, get the cut passes, and that's really how you break a zone defense there, is you get the defense moving a little bit and then wait for the skip pass.
Number 3-1 puts him up 1-3. 31 O'Prandy makes the lead a baker's dozen. And Lynchburg comes away with another face-off win. Have they lost one today, Chris?
I don't believe so, and that's just going to continue to help the stats on the season.
Yeah, I mean, it can be tough to increase that percentage as the season rolls along, just because you have so many more. It becomes more difficult to increase it higher and higher. Nevertheless, today's a great chance to. The Hornets right around 63% on the season. A large part of that due as a result of what Frankel's been able to control at the center circle. Nevertheless, now we're seeing everybody else get involved today and really dominate.
And I think that has a lot to do with Coach Bradney, sort of the guy who really runs that face-off group there.
And this is a Lynchburg squad that we've talked about their depth all day long. That might be their deepest spot, in all honesty. I mean, if Frankel goes down, God forbid, knock on wood, but, I mean, you still feel comfortable. It's not like you're shaking in your boots in terms of who you got next. Big time stop. Randolph with a save. Jake Hanna with his second of the day.
Yeah, and I think guys like Rocco, Thomas D'Souza.
Oh, he wants to go. He's still rolling into the box, looking for an assist. Oh, but now you find yourself in some trouble. Hit the wheels, kid. Get back to the crease.
He's doing his job to get back there.
We saw him take off. Now Ethan Carr brings it into the box. Patient offensive set by Lynchburg. No pressure applied by the Wildcats. No need to. You've only got 3 players on offense right now for Lynchburg. And a swarm of blue jerseys coming to help out. Rubley, split dodge, left alley. Pass over to Mark Rubley. Underneath Tex. Patron back up top. Down the right side, got his hands free underneath. Shot clock at 30.
Great ball movement here. Oh, you can see the crease.
Rubley over the top pipe. 3 Hornets there to back it up with 20 on the shot clock.
And Lynchburg had a guy wide open on the crease. Unfortunately, Rubley just, I don't think, was in his sight line to see him there.
Always easier to see what's
open
from
up here.
8 on the shot clock. Somebody's got to go. Rubley dishes it off. 2 on the shot clock. At the horn. A save, but they'll still call it a shot clock violation. Now the Wildcats with the clear. Oh, but a good ride at midfield. Physicality from a blue jersey. To Prandy. Patron, skip pass. Bouncers through. Patron to Rubley. And the sidelines having some fun.
Looks like a little land shark for the Rubley goal there.
Land shark?
On the celebration.
I'm unfamiliar.
I guess back in my day when the dinosaurs were around, like you were saying, that was a good celebration. There was a guy from
Ole Miss?
Yeah.
Ole Miss basketball player?
Yeah, see now you're just trying to make me feel bad.
I remember that guy. Buzzcut?
Yeah. I cannot think of what his name is.
Yeah,
I don't think he ever made it to the NBA.
Yeah, probably not. He's probably playing in Shanghai somewhere. Lynchburg with another face-off win to control possession. It's been the story all night long. It's been played on one half of the field. We've seen a few opportunities from the Wildcats. They've gotten 3 shots off thus far, one of which has gone through. That started off the second quarter. Nevertheless, Lynchburg has responded with 7 unanswered goals. And Randolph really dedicated to this zone tonight. They've shown no sign of switching to man. It feels like it's really opened things up a lot in the middle of the field, really right in front of the crease, where we've seen Lynchburg get more looks in that area than they've had all season. And also, when you can draw them in, you can pull it back out. We've seen so many of those step downs as well from about 10, 12 yards out.
And a lot of that's going to be because you have those 4 guys sort of rotating that are all right-handed. They're going to be rotating around the goal. When you have the lefty on the opposite side, a guy up top, they're able to sort of get those skip passes and go from there.
90 seconds to go in the first 30. Last time we saw Hannah show off the wheels, this time an errant pass rolls out of play with 1:18 to go in the first half.
So we'll see if Lynchburg holds for one last shot here and really milk the shot clock. There's only about a 2-second difference in favor of the actual game clock here.
They go underneath. Hillenbrand gets it back on the near sideline. Good ball movement around the block. Patient offense. Patron plays it back to X.
And the big thing here is you're trying to get the guy from the middle of the zone to sort of vacate to open that middle area, sort of like the slot in hockey. And so that way you have the cutter right there to just dip it and dunk for a goal.
The Hornets trying to hold on for the last shot of the first half. Patron back up top for Nathan Miller. And Lynchburg's just going to let this one expire. Through the first 30 minutes, Lynchburg up by 14. A dominant first half of play from the Hornets. Chris, big takeaways thus far?
Absolute domination after the faceoff X, and then a really good shooting performance out of the Lynchburg team as a whole.
So we will step aside. Second half of action coming up. Stick with us. When we return from break, we'll have a quick conversation with head coach Kudelka on what he's liked from the first 30.
My name is Alexis Fabula. I major in criminology and I double minor in psychology and criminal forensics. My favorite part about Lynchburg is the friends that I've come to have. It's helped me come out of my shell more, and it's helped me become the person I am and the student I am. I really enjoyed how small the campus was, and I also really enjoy how small the class sizes are. It made me feel like I was going to be more engaged than I would at a bigger campus. If someone was on the fence of coming to the University of Lynchburg, I would definitely love to sit down and have a conversation with them, because I'm forever grateful that I made this choice. It's definitely something that a student wouldn't regret. Out of my 4 years here, I've not had one bad experience. I've had a great 4 years, and I'm going to be very sad to go.
This video isn't about me. It's about the limitless possibilities that the University of Lynchburg allows me to be. An athlete, an artist, an adventurer, a writer, a believer, a human. Because what I love about the University of Lynchburg is that they have a saying, here we're home. And honestly though, I think a better fit would be a home for everyone. Because it doesn't matter the color of your skin, the person you love, the God you pray to, the pronouns you use, the city you're from, the language you speak. University of Lynchburg gives you the greatest opportunity they can for you to be the absolute best version of yourself.
Every great college has a great city. For Lynchburg, we are near urban areas with lots of restaurants, shopping, and events. Plus, we are one of the top schools in the area. Come see for yourself.
When creating a sustainable future, your choices matter, even your choice of a college. The University of Lynchburg is the first college in Virginia to go carbon neutral. Our dining hall is Green Restaurant certified. We compost all of our food waste and purchase our electricity from landfill gas. Now we're turning a hazardous lake into a thriving urban wetland. When you choose Lynchburg, you leave a smaller footprint while building a better tomorrow.
Field turf was built on innovation, dating back to our invention of long-piled infield turf, which revolutionized the industry. Today, we offer a series of game-changing fibers, high-performance infills, sport-specific applications, and smart field technology. Field turf. Let's change the game together.
At the University of Lynchburg, we've lowered our tuition, so you get a better value for a great education. Come see our campus for yourself.
This is the dough. It's wicked cute. It's always so pretty.
If you want to know your customers, shop where they shop. Live where they live. And spend time with them as neighbors. With over 100 local offices, Virginia Farm Bureau agents are part of your community. If you want insurance from a company that knows you, get to know us.
My name is Davion Washington Jr. I have the honor of serving as the student body president. I have 5 little siblings. I'm the oldest of 6 siblings, and they look up to me. I'm setting the tone. I get to develop myself, make myself a better individual, but also I'm helping future generations, not even my family, but just future generations in general. I found my passion here. I found, the love for what I want to do. I just really had an amazing time here. It's changed my outlook on life. You don't have to be famous to change lives. You don't have to be on the big screen or whatever. I change lives now, and I hope to continue to do that. Just same way that the University of Lynchburg has changed my life for the better.
Think a private education is too expensive? Think again. At the University of Lynchburg, you can get a personalized education for the cost of a state school. If you're commuting and you get our top scholarships, you could pay much less. And you get all that without the hassle of giant lecture halls. Our faculty know your name here and do more than just teach. You might even do research together and plan out your next career moves.
Hello and welcome back into the broadcast booth. We're now joined by Lynchburg head coach Steve Kudelka. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Coach, you got to be pleased with the result through the first 30. What really stood out to you?
I just played pretty efficient lacrosse right there for 30 minutes. It was great to get a lot of people in the game, and just, obviously want to play the best we possibly can no matter who we're playing against, and we've been able to do that tonight, which is great.
Hey, Coach, this is Chris Jennings. Just wanted to ask, a lot of really good things from the first half. Yeah. What are some things that you're looking for out of this real second group of offense and defensive players here in the second group?
Well, we're just obviously this is a great opportunity for some of these guys to get some quality playing time right now, and as you know, Chris, they work so hard in practice every day, and so it's really awesome for us to get us in a game like this and get them a chance to play, and hopefully, they have a standard that they want to play to, and we want them to play their best they possibly can.
Coach, this game and obviously the Averett game, we've gotten a look at a lot of these guys really deeper in the depth chart. Who are a couple guys that have really impressed you in these outings?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time hearing the question, so I don't really know how to answer that. But, I think the best part is we're playing, hopefully, playing our best lacrosse right now at the end of the year. That's the goal, and I'm excited to watch these guys play the second half.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Coach.
You.
Head coach Steve Kudelka there for you. Obviously, Lynchburg with a great performance through the first 30 minutes of action, and it really just was an onslaught of offense for Lynchburg, where everybody was getting involved. Brody Mason tabbed 2 goals in the first, and it felt like no matter what position, no matter what kind of pole you got, everybody was having a whole lot of fun. Great ball movement as well certainly stood out, Chris.
Yeah, and this is a team that, like Coach Kudelka was saying, they work really hard at practice, and this second group is in there busting their butts, but the first group of guys that aren't really playing right now that are normally in that role against maybe some of the higher teams like a Roanoke, W&L, Salisbury, they're just excited for them to be scoring and putting up all these goals as the guys on the field right now are excited for them during those games.
Randolph did find one to start off the second quarter. That leaves us with a 15-1 scoreboard currently. And really what impressed was the domination at the center circle. The Hornets have seen the best success all season long. And, it's tough to say when you've had, games where you win in faceoffs at 60, 70, 80%. But today has been really tough to nitpick.
Yeah, and to my knowledge, 100% from the faceoff backs. That is something that you don't see very often, and that is something that they're going to be real happy with, especially Coach Brad Nee and that faceoff group.
They got 2 over here on Shane.
Lynchburg is 18 for 19 on faceoffs.
About
as perfect as you can get, though.
Yeah, still to that point, hovering around that 95% clip, and that is something that it's been a little bit of both. It's been the faceoff man winning it to himself. It's also been getting the wings involved, and I think that's something super impressive that not just Riley Frankel, but all the faceoff guys have been able to do is win in multiple ways. They can win it out the front, they can win it out the back, and they're able to be successful.
Rocco Egan, 5 of 6 today. D'Souza, 5 of 5. And Caramanga has really found his rhythm, 8 for 8. 6 ground balls in the mix as well. Seems like they're putting 1 second on the shot clock. They're just going to drop it off. Let the Wildcats take it the other way. Lynchburg hasn't made life easy for Randolph getting it across midfield either. The rides tonight have been certainly physical from Lynchburg in their powder blue uniforms.
Yeah, and wearing these uniforms is always a great thing for this Lynchburg team because it's supposed to bring awareness to the One Love Foundation.
Allen with a big-time stop. His 3rd of the night. Hasn't seen a whole lot of action between the pipes, but when he has, he's been a brick wall. Brody Mason takes it across midfield, and Lynchburg will reset. We've seen a whole lot of Brody. We've seen a whole lot of the Rubley twins, O'Brandy getting involved. There's been no shortage of production, regardless of the number on the back of the Lynchburg jersey. Step down, Money on the mark. Right on cue, it's Cole Pregame, the sophomore out of Richmond, Virginia.
And that's a great job sort of breaking down the zone defense that Randolph has. They're able to, ball movement and player movement has led to Pregame getting that wide open step down.
There's just something about those lacrosse kids from Richmond, Virginia, Chris. They just know how to play the game the right way.
Most of them, yeah, like Eric Allen from Atlee. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, there was this Pole from St. Chris. He wasn't very good, but
anyone else that comes to mind that was a stud on JV?
not to my knowledge.
Lynchburg in a patient set. They've really had no reason to really push tonight. Not trying to run it up, just trying to find good, clean looks.
You can see when Lynchburg's sort of sweeping over the top, it's when Randolph has to sort of exchange the man that they're covering between zones. That's when the breakdown in their zone's happening, and Lynchburg does a great job of sort of drawing two in a zone and then passing it one more for that step down that we saw with Pregame on the previous goal, and then Miller right there.
3 of the 5 highest scoring team totals this season have all come against this Randolph defense. At the top of the list, or pardon me, now it's second at the top of the list, was that W&L Randolph game. Roanoke actually scored 35 goals by themselves on the 19th against Valwez. That sits in the top spot. But Bridgewater and Roanoke also had really successful offensive nights against Randolph. Quincy White having himself a successful night on both ends. That's his second goal of the contest.
That's a great job there. Starts with a physical riding aspect with the attack group there. Creates a cause turnover, and they're able to go right down the field and put one in the back of the net.
A lot of goals coming from that defensive group. Short pole and long pole. Another face-off win for Lynchburg. 19 for 20 on the night. Good move.
Working.
As you look at the national landscape for Division III lacrosse, Tufts moved into that #1 spot this past week over Salisbury. Despite Tufts being first in media and coaches, it's that NPI that everybody's looking at now. And that carries a whole lot of weight. Just seeing on who's going to have the #1 overall seed. Lynchburg dropped in the rankings down to 20th. Certainly in the mix for a conference championship and an automatic bid. And the Lynchburg sideline goes crazy. Everybody's pouring water on Brody Mason.
That's a great move there. Looks like it was Michael Hayes that's able to get to the middle of the field. And like Coach Kadelka was saying, you know how hard these guys work. Michael Hayes, one of those guys that they're going to be real happy and look at the sideline as he comes over and everyone's just hitting him on the head, real excited for him.
Michael Hayes makes it 18-1.
The Canadian.
How about that? I don't know many Canadians, but I will say I'm a very big fan of Steve Nash.
Yeah, great basketball player. I know that NBA playoffs right now, you got to be real excited about that.
Oh, yeah. My Lakers are playing tonight, man. That's always a big time for me.
And they have home court right now as the 3 seed, but they lost game 1, so
right,
they don't really have home court
Watch
anymore.
Yourself. We've still got about an hour left in this press box. I don't think it's going to get hostile. Good movement, sweeping across, and another big-time stop. You know, they started tonight with Slider in the crease, and ever since going to Hannah, he has had really quick hands and gotten in front of a handful of balls.
And something to be said is that righty guy, Hannah with the lefty as a lefty, maybe just throwing a little bit of a different look at this Lynchburg team, he's able to read the shots a little bit better as he makes another great save there.
Having himself a night, but Lynchburg just controlling the battle on the carpet. And I will say, we saw Michael Hayes net that goal last series. That was his first career goal.
Oh, those are things that you'll remember for a long time as your first career college goal.
Miller weaving through traffic. Corkscrewing his way inside and converting.
Great job sort of protecting the stick there. He sort of does that classic face dodge, bringing it in, but keeping it in tight so that way he can pull back and finish in a great spot there.
Nathan Miller with his third goal of the year.
Let's go, Britton.
What a great night for lacrosse here under the lights. You got the sunset coming here in the Hill City. 4-on-3 break for Lynchburg. Another big save by Hannah. Using the body. Got the hand. He's trying to shake it off. Looks like he did a good job of shaking that one off. Layton with some wheels. But a swarm of Hornets causing mayhem. Still not in the clear. Now here comes Hank. Good movement. Hank on the doorstep. Oh, just wide.
He does a great job there. I know that one doesn't go in, but he does a great job just running full speed. And I think that was probably the best part of that play is that Coach Kudelka's going to see that, and maybe the shot doesn't go in, but he executes it nearly perfect.
He's going to see that and say, we got to put this kid in attack.
Maybe not. No disrespect to Hank, great kid, but I think Coach likes him hankering down the defense.
Hankering down? I don't know if that was an intentional pun, but I really liked it. That was his first career shot. And almost had a goal. Hank Alessandro, the freshman out of Rhode Island. Certainly a fan favorite.
Stay in front. Stay in front of your man. Stay in front.
The lefty Evans. Plays it outside for Connor Moore.
There you go, keep going.
Underhand pass to Quincy, now back underneath Tax. 10 on the shot clock. Hornets got to go. Moore.
No, sir.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, sir. On the rocks, Connor Moore to the top shelf.
Great job by Connor Moore there. Sort of a little toe drag, keeps the ball in his stick, and is able to use the turf to bounce it in. Great job there by Connor.
Moore in his senior season with the Hornets, part of that short stick defensive midfield group that has shown you that they've got a lot of different guys that can make things happen on both ends of the field. Obviously, Parker Seeley and Quincy White headline the transition goals out of that group. But we've seen guys like Zacharias get involved, Connor Moore right there. Who else am I forgetting out of that? Gabe Machada?
Yeah, and I think something to be said is that guys like Connor Moore and Parker Seeley didn't come here as D-mids, but they really bought into the team aspect. and there's a lot to be said for that.
A rocket to the top right corner from Andrew Beal. It's the 6'1" sophomore midfielder out of Pasadena, Maryland.
Great shot there. I mean, he put all his power into that one.
The second goal of his collegiate career, first one of the season. 21-1.
And we go back to that MPI that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Tufts taking over the number 1 spot. Something that Lynchburg, they're now in the 20th spot. WNL hovering right above 10. I want to say they were in 12th or 13th. So that is something that is definitely interesting to see. And if you're Roanoke, Hampton, Sydney, Randolph, Macon, they're out of the top 30. And that is something that it's like, does Lynchburg and the rest of the ODAC get one bid with maybe just the AQ, or do they get multiple bids that they've had in the past? Something like, I think the reason why Tufts is so high is because there's so many NESCAC schools in that top 10, top 15 of the MPI that are ahead. But looking at how many different conferences are ahead of Lynchburg and WNL, it's about 10 that you're looking at, okay, these are the potential AQs that you're going to get, and then there's about 10 at-large bids. So you start doing the math and seeing what is it going to take to sneak into the tournament if you don't win the ODAC title.
Well, you know, you kind of mentioned it there with Washington and Lee being at 12. They feel relatively safe for an at-large bid, but not a lock by any means. It's just a team that you would think should be there regardless of what happens in the ODAC championship. Now, with that being said, they could drop their next game to Roanoke, and they could lose in the quarterfinal, the semifinal, and find themselves on the outside looking in if there's a couple of bid stealers.
Yeah, and like exactly that point is Roanoke one of those bid stealers that you're going to see? If they lose to them by, say, 1, that gives Lynchburg the head-to-head, all the tiebreaker math. They get the 1 seed, and then you have that potential 2-3 matchup of Washington and Lee and Roanoke again. And if Roanoke wins that, where does that put Roanoke? They're around like 35 right now. Do they sneak up and potentially get an at-large bid? Does Lynchburg get the AQ? And you can never be too safe if you're the Generals across the mountain. But I think if you're Lynchburg, Roanoke, WNL, Hampton, Sydney, you don't want to leave anything to chance. You're trying to win this ODAC title, so that way you can finish the year off and go into Selection Sunday not worrying about anything instead of swaying through the math all Saturday night, Sunday during the day in hopes of, do we make it in?
Well, let's talk a little bit about that Roanoke team because, you know, they find themselves in a peculiar spot where they don't necessarily have a whole lot of signature wins on their resume quite yet. They did beat Hampton Sydney, which was a good quality win. A one-goal loss to Lynchburg on the road. A 8-goal loss to Amherst on the road. A 8-goal loss to CNU at home. And an 8-goal loss to Dickinson at home. All very quality teams that could find themselves in that tournament bracket. Nevertheless, the lack of having that signature win is one thing that really could hurt them come Selection Sunday. Granted, you still got that regular season finale against Washington and Lee on Wednesday.
And I think something to be said about that is sort of looking at CNU has beat Lynchburg, WNL, Roanoke.
Yeah.
That hurts the ODAC conference as a whole because then it puts the CLC above
Yeah.
the ODAC, and then that 8-goal loss to Amherst really helps and boosters that NESCAC conference. And I think those are things that you got to look at. And it's like, how much is the selection committee looking at MPI versus the eye test? And
I will say, if Roanoke does not come away with a win against Washington and Lee or Lynchburg, they are most likely on the outside looking in.
And I agree with that. But it really is going to play. How much does the selection committee look at MPI?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just for who's in and out. It's who's matched up against who.
Yeah.
I mean, you had two teams last year here on Schellenberger Field that I think both could have made Final Four runs.
Yeah.
Washington and Lee comes away with a victory, and they're the ones that are playing in the Final Four instead of Lynchburg.
But I will say, unfortunately, if you're a Lynchburg fan, right now your thought process is more so making the tournament than who you're going to be playing. And you talked about it with a two-bid league because it feels like if Washington and Lee wins the conference, there's uncertainty with certainly Roanoke, Randolph, Macon, and Hampton-Sydney, and Lynchburg is really on that fringe. Granted, if Lynchburg wins out the regular season, wins in the semifinal and makes it to the championship, you still feel like you have a pretty good shot to hearing your name called, but you don't feel confident. Really, the only way you feel confident if you're Lynchburg is if you win the conference, obviously.
Yeah,
because that's where you get that at-large bid. But, I mean, it comes with it where even if you didn't have that automatic bid, if you take down Roanoke, Randolph, Macon, and Washington and Lee in your final 3 games of the season, you're certainly in a better spot than 20th in NPI.
Yeah, and it just sort of goes back to Washington, Lee, and Lynchburg are really the only 2 teams that have had real hard out-of-conference games that they can sort of hang their hat on maybe a quality win here or there.
We'll step aside momentarily and put a pin in this conversation. We'll touch on it more when we come back on LHSN and Lacrosse TV.
So class, in lieu of a pop quiz, we will instead have a pop tailgate. The NCAA Men's and Women's Lacrosse Championships, May in Boston. Buy your seats today at ncaa.com/tickets. So class, in lieu of a pop quiz, we will instead have a pop tailgate. The NCAA Men's and Women's Lacrosse Championships, May in Boston. Buy your seats today at ncaa.com/tickets.
And we welcome you back in. Another face-off win to start the final frame from the Lynchburg Hornets. Let's go back to talking about this NPI, Chris, because this is really where all eyes are. Hornets at 20th, dropped from 19 a week ago. But, I mean, right now it feels like you've got a date with Roanoke in the semifinal and a contest against W&L, just if it's all chalk.
Yeah.
But the way this season has felt, I mean, it really has felt chalk for the most part, where it's just a food chain. And you know, a big fish gets eaten by the bigger fish, where Lynchburg has beaten Roanoke but fallen to Washington and Lee, and Roanoke has fallen to Lynchburg but beaten Hampton-Sydney, and so on and so forth. But you've got a Washington and Lee team that's certainly not head and shoulders above the pack, that has 2 overtime victories, one against Lynchburg and one against Randolph, making as Hillenbrand finds his 3rd goal of the day for a hat trick.
And yeah, like you said, it's big fish getting eaten by the bigger fish. But in that MPI is strength of schedule, win-loss differential, so that goal differential, and whether you're on the road or at home. So I think the one that really sort of sticks out that if Lynchburg could have back is that Gettysburg game where they lose by 7 early on in the year, and that sort of bolsters the Centennial there. But they sort of bounce back, get a good win on the road at Denison. But Denison's a great program, but the NCAC isn't as strong as maybe a Centennial.
There's a face-off win for the Wildcats, 2nd of the day. Sorry, Chris, keep going.
And so you start looking at it, and if you're Lynchburg, it's obviously we can talk in circles, but you win the conference, you're in.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about anything. But how close are these NESCAC teams going to be these upcoming weeks? What are the goal differentials? Who's winning where and by how much? And how is that going to affect each other? It's sort of like the SEC this past year in basketball. Are they all just beating up on each other and having close games, or are they just blowouts? And I think that's something to look at is like, how can they get over the hump here? Is that loss to WNL is by 1, but it's on the road. It's a Wednesday night, and that's got to count for something. But you have looked at years past where Lynchburg's really dominated Roanoke, but they only get a 1-goal win at home. How much does that factor in?
One thing I will say, and I'm not trying to argue with you, and I could be mistaken, but I did read the NPI this year and was actually surprised. Home and away does not matter.
Okay.
So I was personally shocked by that, and I could have misread it, but to my understanding, the NPI is just based off the NPI. Like so if the 20th team beats the 75th team, that's where it shakes out. Overtime also not in the picture, but the goal differential is. And obviously, if it's an overtime game, that's a 1-goal. But Lynchburg keeps on keeping on. Another goal here in the 4th quarter. Now up by 22. This one comes from Beal, his 2nd of the day. Both of which have come here in the 2nd half. But it should be interesting to see how this all shakes out, especially with how you mentioned how the number 1 seed hasn't won since 2019, which is 5?
It's about 6 now.
6 now?
So
that COVID year always throws me off.
Yeah, so last year, Lynchburg wins because Washington and Lee drops against Randolph-Macon. The year before, Lynchburg is the winner of the regular season. They lose to WNL here on Schellenberger Field. 22, WNL loses and can't make it to the final, but they end up getting knocked out early on. Lynchburg wins. Same thing in 2021, where Lynchburg goes over to Washington and Lee, wins and beats them on their own field. 2020, no conference tournament. 2019, Lynchburg and WNL on over in Lexington, and that game was a 1-goal game. And then you have to continue to go back. 2018, Lynchburg's the 4 seed. They end up winning the conference tournament.
Wow.
And you can just go back more and more. Yes, it's nice to win regular season titles, and you can put that on your email signature that, hey, we're regular season champions in all these years, but it doesn't matter unless you have the NCAA berth or the trophy where you get to ring the bell here on Schellenberger.
Yeah, there's certainly a whole lot more weight given to those tournament championships rather than regular season, and I think rightfully so. Ethan Carr, Hezzy, shot through. Tosses his stick, and a flag comes out. Which is interesting because I've seen him do a backflip this year, and that didn't get flagged. But it might be getting a little too comfortable, as Future likes to say.
Yeah, and Coach Kudelka not saying much right now, and I think that's probably the scariest thing that you can see if you're Ethan Carr.
Minute penalty for the Hornets after the celebration from Carr.
I haven't seen that celebration. I've seen backflips by players before. I haven't seen just throwing your stick in the air when you're up 23 goals.
Randolph converting on just under 10% of their power play opportunities this year. A whistle blows it dead. They're having a shot clock malfunction, so they'll reset that guy and start back up from the top of the box. Oh, and a turnover. A pass that ran wide. And it's the two studs. It's our player to watch. Going just outside with the man that scored the goal to begin today in the second half for the Wildcats. Final regular season game at Schellenberger this season for the Hornets. It was a successful regular season for Lynchburg on their home turf. They did drop their first two games of the season, or first two of three, I should say, rather, to Gettysburg and Salisbury. But ever since then, they've been perfect at home. They'll finish the year 6-2 on their home turf, 5-2 right now on the road in true away games, with one more remaining against Randolph-Macon, which will be a fun one to close out the regular season. They've got a talented group over there. They've got a whole lot of great players. Stuart Widener, that's great at that defensive midfield.
There's something to be said about that Randolph-Macon team is they not the strongest strength of schedule outside of the conference, but a team that I would say overperforms yearly. It's a team that took Washington and Lee to overtime, and you would have thought after last year Washington and Lee was going to come out guns blazing against them.
We do have a Wildcat down. We're going to step aside momentarily. Stick with us on LHSN.
Your greatest critic is right here. Now that is poetry. That's Fandom U. It's all part of the curriculum. The NCAA D1, D2, and D3 men's and D1 women's lacrosse championships, May 23rd through the 26th.
And we welcome you back in. Lynchburg with possession after the Wildcat was able to get off the field on his own power, which is always a good sight. Everything seems to be all squared away. It was the defenseman Britton Malcolm that hit the deck. And now, you know, what's funny enough about Lynchburg being such a great athletic training school is we've got Lynchburg ATs over on the Randolph sideline. Maddie Foreman, one of your swimmers.
Yeah, and she's a great student. Really, I think something that is great to see is that you have Coach Sinclair over on the Randolph sideline, Lynchburg alum. You have Maddie Foreman, who is a Lynchburg student over at Randolph. You have Prince Charles, the Randolph alum, on the Lynchburg staff. And I think it just shows how closely connected these two schools and programs are. And it helps that all you have to really do is you go down Hill Street, and all of a sudden you're over by Rivermont Pizza and Randolph College.
9 minutes down the road, a quick bus ride for the Wildcats over here today. Behind the back shot, rolls wide. Yeah, Rivermont Pizza, definitely the big-time spot over by their campus. Also rookies, I've heard a lot of good things about. Still yet to check out either of those spots.
I was going to say, we'll grab a slice of pizza and maybe an ice cream sandwich after the season's over.
That sounds like a fun date, Chris. I'm excited. You know, I will say I am also a big fan of the Cav. They got that right down by their campus as well.
Yeah, the Cavaliers great, and just something so tremendous about Lynchburg is all these family-owned businesses, and that you're not going to get anywhere else, especially like downtown, that Boonesboro area. There's no chains besides that one Domino's downtown, where, no offense to Domino's, I don't see many people in there. They're normally at Rivermont Pizza or Benny's.
Oh, Benny's, man. I'm a big Benny's guy. JoJo's not bad either. That's a good spot to go to. Really just some Lynchburg staples, no matter what side of town you're on.
Absolutely.
I will say I like the Reuben at the Cavalier.
Okay.
I'm a big Reuben guy.
I like their potato wedges with the house-made ranch.
I thought you were going to say their drink selection. They've got some nice beverages over there, man. You get a nice Shirley Temple.
I'm more of a Coke guy.
Yeah, I can't do Pepsi, and that's honestly something that really grinds my gears. If I ask for a Coca-Cola and they say, is Pepsi all right, I'm getting a Mountain Dew or a water.
Yeah.
I just can't do it. Good ground ball. Toe tapping his way down the tightrope. Now in transition, a trailing Alessandro, no good. What a stop by Hannah. Over the head of Patron, calling for it, able to recover. And as we talk about the community aspect, obviously with these two schools being so intertwined with one another, it really does go beyond that, and not just between these two schools, but in the lacrosse community and really in all the Virginia colleges in the area. You see that connection with the One Love program that we're honoring tonight.
Yeah, and One Love's a great foundation. Back in 2020 is when Lynchburg sort of introduced the blue porthole jerseys against York, where Brendan Childs, another Lynchburg alum, coaches now. And something that Coach Kudelka is super big on is that One Love raises awareness about relationship violence. It is in remembrance of Yardley Love, who was a women's lacrosse player who unfortunately lost her life back in 2010, I believe. Might have been 2009. But it is something that has impacted the lacrosse community as a whole. She's from Baltimore, so another lacrosse hotbed. So people all over, they understand what it is. And all these guys on the team, whether it's your brother, your sister, your daughter, your son, everyone, I'm sure, has something that they're willing to give, and they never want to see anything violent come out of a relationship. And the One Love Foundation does a great job of raising awareness, and they have that baby blue color that is real eye-catching, and that's made such a big impact not only on this campus but in the lacrosse community.
Third goal of the day from Andrew Beal, a hat trick for the sophomore. And we do ask, you're more than welcome to go to One Love's website at joinonelove.org, where you can make a donation, either a one-time gift or become a monthly donor. You can do it by credit card, Google Pay, Venmo, bank transfer, donations by mail. So we encourage you to check out their website. Certainly a great foundation and even a better cause. Early movement on the face-off after the win by Randolph. Turns the tide and gives it back to the Hornets.
And with this Lynchburg team playing on Tuesday night, where normally it's Wednesday, Saturday, this week it's a Tuesday, Friday sort of pair of games, which I think a lot of people are going to be watching tomorrow night, 7 o'clock over in Roanoke, is that Roanoke-Washington Lee game that we've been talking a lot about. And I think Coach Kudelka, the rest of the staff, they're going to keep an eye on that one to really have an idea of who they're going to be playing, when they're going to be playing, where they're going to be playing. But I know talking to the staff, it doesn't matter who comes in front of them to play. It's going to be someone that is a very talented team because the ODAC has so many of them, and it's going to show they just are going to have a chance to see those two teams play one last time in the regular season.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. That's an excellent point, Chris. Patron, he'll take it back. Patient set with a shot clock running down.
And I think something is, we keep on talking if Roanoke beats Washington lead by 1 goal, but if that happens, it's still not secure that Lynchburg's going to be the 1 seed. They still have to go over to Ashland and take on the Yellow Jackets, who have given these top-tier ODAC teams a lot of fight.
Thrown away. Ball on the turf. And Lynchburg comes away with it once again. Patron doing some dancing. Now, as we look ahead, we've talked a little about Lynchburg. On deck, they've got Randolph-Macon. They'll play that one out in Ashland. A rematch of last year's ODAC championship. There'll certainly be some high emotions in that ball game, with Randolph-Macon having a chance to play upset and really spoil Lynchburg's chances at even coming away with a number 1 overall seed. Granted, it all comes down to the game tomorrow between Roanoke and Washington and Lee as well. But for the Wildcats, they'll play Shenandoah on the road in Winchester on Friday. And that's a Shenandoah squad that's looked pretty solid this season as well.
Yeah, and I think last week when Lynchburg went up to Shenandoah, it was a good game. You saw a lot of depth out of the Lynchburg team, but obviously Coach Sinclair and the Wildcats are going to look for maybe a highlight to end the season on. Go up there, make it a competitive game. I know that drive up 81 isn't necessarily the most enjoyable, but if they can go up there, play well, and I think they have the offensive power to score goals against teams. It's can they make sure that they're clearing the ball efficiently and winning faceoffs at the X. That's going to give them a chance to come away with a goal, with a win like they did earlier this year against Warren Wilson.
Just 1 goal tonight on 5 shots. Not much time spent in their offensive zone. Lynchburg didn't really give them much room to breathe all night long. A suffocating performance from the Hornet defense, and really pristine passing on the offensive end that just opened things up all night long, as the Randolph zone really had no answer for it. And it seems like Lynchburg's just going to let this one roll out. The Hornets will advance to 11-5 in the regular season. Meanwhile, for Randolph, they dropped to 1-15, 0-9 in conference play. It was a big night for Riley Hillenbrand. Led the team with 5 points, 2 goals, 3 assists. But it was really a win by committee for Lynchburg, where they had 2 players tab a hat trick with him and Beal, and then Brody Mason, Jack Murdoch, Quincy White, Mark Rubley, and all tabbed multi-game performances. And good passing from Lynchburg as well. Matty Patron spearheaded that charge with 3 assists on the night. Chris, final thoughts?
Great job by Lynchburg, obviously dominating the faceoff X. Really crisp passing, showing their depth, seeing how that's going to work into the weekend as they have a midday game over in Ashland against their Yellow Jackets on Friday.
So with that, we're going to step aside. We appreciate you tuning in with us tonight. A fun one to close out the regular season on Schellenberger Field. We'll see how the tournament bracket shakes out to see what we've got next here at home. Until then, I've been Joe Brennan alongside Chris Jennings. A big thank you to everybody in our production room, our director, Jonathan Fauster, graphics man, Kevin Nestor, our replay guy, Ethan Morotsky, our cameras in Seja Wellington, Landon Spots, and B Flowers doing it on the field. Till next time, thank you, and have a good one.